ready for an epic journey where heavy machines face the ultimate tests. Crashing waves at sea, steep and unforgiving mountain roads, and the frozen grip of icy landscapes. These aren't just machines, they're titans built to survive. Where nature shows no mercy, every scene pushes engineering to its limits. Every challenge demands skill, precision, and nerves of steel from those at the controls. From roaring engines in the mountains to unstoppable crawlers on ice, this is a ride you won't forget. Could you handle the extremes these machines conquer? Comment your answer. The challenge is on. Meet the Triton crane, a floating giant that rolls the waters of the Wassail-Daddle Canal. This isn't just a crane, it's a floating powerhouse capable of lifting up to 5,000 tons, rescuing stranded ships, moving massive port structures, and handling loads that would crush ordinary machines. Every operation is a high-stakes mission where precision is everything, and the margin for error is zero. Watching it in action is like seeing raw engineering muscle at its peak. But here's the challenge. Could you stay calm and focused while commanding such a colossal beast on the water? Comment what you think. Would you dare take the controls? Imagine driving a fully loaded heavy truck down a busy highway when boom, one of the massive tires explodes without warning. The sound is deafening. The steering shakes violently, and every second feels like an eternity. In that instant, it's all about skill, focus, and keeping control. The wrong move could mean disaster, but with steady hands and quick thinking, the driver manages to slow down and guide the beast safely to a stop. A heart-pounding reminder that in heavy hauling, danger can strike at any moment. Now the challenge. If this happened to you, would you have the nerves to keep it under control? Comment your answer. Picture this, a steep mountain road, narrow and unforgiving, with 4 massive excavators stacked one on top of the other on a heavy transport trailer. Every turn is a test of precision, every incline a battle against gravity. One wrong move could send hundreds of tons sliding into disaster. The driver must calculate each maneuver down to the smallest detail, speed, angle, balance, while the machines loom above, like a towering metal fortress. It's not just transport, it's a high-stakes game of nerves and skill. Could you handle that kind of pressure? Comment your thoughts. Imagine moving a 4,500-ton tugboat not through the water, but over solid ground, using massive self-propelled modular transporters. Every axle and wheel works in perfect harmony to spread the weight and keep the load balanced. The operation is slow, deliberate, and unforgiving. Each centimeter matters when maneuvering something taller than buildings and heavier than a fleet of trucks. One miscalculation, and the cargo or the crew could be in danger. This isn't just transport, it's engineering precision at its peak. Could you take control of a move like this? Share your thoughts. Picture this, enormous water tanks, each the size of a small building, rolling through the streets of Lima under the cover of night. Their destination, a remote site for 500 meters above sea level. The climb is relentless narrow roads, sharp curves, and thin air that pushes both engines and crew to their limits. Every movement is calculated. One wrong turn could mean disaster on the mountain slopes. It's not just about strength, but about endurance, patience, and skill. Could you handle a night like this, knowing there's no margin for error? What's your take on this challenge? In Huánuco, nature showed its raw power. A massive landslide tore through the mountainside, burying roads and cutting off entire communities. The scene was chaos, dust in the air, debris everywhere, and the clock ticking for rescue and recovery. Heavy machinery became the frontline heroes, carving paths through the rubble, moving earth, and clearing the way for aid to reach those in need. Each operator faced unstable ground and constant risk of more collapses. It wasn't just a job, it was a race against time. Could you take the controls in a moment like this, knowing lives depended on every move? What's your view on this kind of challenge? Machines that don't tolerate hesitation. Giant machines designed to move the impossible, but that demand a rare kind of control. The humankind. It's easy to be impressed by the size, the weight, or the power. The real challenge is understanding what happens inside the cabin. In there, there's no room for doubt. No margin for delay. Either the operator is in full control, or everything falls apart. What seems simple from the outside is often the result of movements, coordinated to the second, even fractions of a second. Driving isn't enough. You have to anticipate every vibration, every tilt, every strange noise. The machine might weigh over 100 tons, but move it just 1 centimeter too far, or not enough, and it could destroy everything around it. The operator is often the only truly irreplaceable part of the operation. While everyone looks at the equipment, he's listening to the engine, feeling the ground, analyzing the controls, and predicting what could go wrong before it actually does. Here's a little known fact: in failure simulations, some operators are tested with false alarms, reverse controls, and staged emergencies, all to measure their self-control. The logic is simple. If you lose your calm, you lose control, and losing control can mean loss, or worse. During real operations, the operator's body goes into a constant state of alert. Many unconsciously hold their breath during critical moments. Others develop the habit of staying completely still for long minutes, eyes locked, muscles tense, waiting for the exact moment to react. It's not just about technique. It's instinct. It's nerve. On certain equipment models, the operator must coordinate hands, feet, even their torso, like a musician playing a complex instrument. But here, the stage doesn't. Forgive mistakes. The audience is made of concrete, steel, tension cables, and any wrong move could cause everything to collapse. There have been situations where machines had to be operated with millimeter precision inside tunnels or deep trenches with zero visibility and less than 5 centimeters of margin for error, and yet everything went smoothly. Not because of the technology, but because the operator knew every reaction of the machine like it was his own body. Another interesting fact: experienced operators can detect a hydraulic failure just by sound. Others can tell when an axle is overloaded just by the feeling in their hands. It's not something you learn from a manual. It's absorbed with time, sweat, and sometimes mistakes. But mistakes are costly. That's why many of them trust their instincts more than the sensors. Did you know that? In some places, operators are instructed not to leave the cabin for up to 8 straight hours, depending on the load-in. Motion? It's not just about safety. It's because any shift in focus, any change in body position, can affect the balance inside that cabin. Every second matters. Machines may be modern, robust, and intelligent, but they still depend on human judgment. Sometimes, everything looks normal, but the operator feels something's wrong. A slight delay in the arm's return, a strange smell from the brake system, a metallic sound just a bit off. Things no one else notices, but he does, and he acts. Have you ever seen a machine with over 80 wheels move gently across an improvised bridge, or a mechanical arm, dozens of meters long, place a 15-ton component into a space smaller than a car door? That's not brute force. That's absolute control. That's the operator making the impossible look easy. People are amazed by the size of these machines, but they forget that the machines don't think for themselves. The one who thinks, who decides, who acts is the operator. He's the one who feels the wind pushing the structure. He's the one who notices the ground shifting. He's the one who, even under pressure, has to keep everything moving. During precision maneuvers, the cabin often turns into an isolation chamber. The outside world disappears. Only the machine remains. And the goal. No room for noise. No room for distraction. The operator enters a mental state where everything becomes automatic, but nothing, absolutely nothing, can slip out of control. There's also the psychological factor. Knowing that hundreds of tons depend on your decision. Knowing that a 1-second delay could freeze an entire schedule. Knowing that the entire team relies on you, and that no one can replace you in that moment. Those who've never operated won't understand, but those who live this every day know. Inside that cabin, there's no room for doubt, no room for error, and the operator, he has to control everything with calm, precision, and cold blood. No margin for error. Could you do it? Machines that defy gravity. Heavy machinery isn't built to make mistakes. It's built to hold, lift, and move loads that defy all logic. But behind all that brute force, there's always someone making decisions in fractions of a second. Someone who can't hesitate, can't slip, can't even blink at the wrong moment. The operator isn't just piloting the machine. They're managing a system of constant risk. Unbalanced loads, tension cables, pressure-bearing structures, all of it reacts to the slightest movement. The safety margin? Almost none. Every angle matters. Every centimeter is critical. There are maneuvers that, if done too quickly, break the ground too slowly, and they become traps of instability. It's the kind of operation where even the wind becomes an enemy. That's why the operator has to read the environment, not just the dashboard, but the machine's behavior, the terrain, the temperature, the slope, the sound. Few people can imagine what goes on inside the cabin. The physical and mental tension is extreme. There have been cases where operators sweated so much during a single maneuver that the seat had to be replaced afterward for safety reasons. And we're not talking about heat. We're talking about pressure. The operator's mind becomes a live radar. Even with dozens of sensors and cameras, what really makes the difference isn't the system. It's the feeling. That sixth sense that says, stop everything now, before things spiral out of control. And often, it's that one instant that saves the entire operation. Here's a lesser-known fact. In advanced training, some operators are tested by suspending a load for over 30 minutes without allowing it to swing more than 2 degrees. Sounds simple. Now try that with 40 tons swaying 15 meters above the ground and crosswinds changing direction every minute. When more than one machine is involved, everything becomes even more delicate. Imagine the structures, each weighing hundreds of tons, moving in perfect sync, with people walking between them, waiting for the exact moment to act. Any timing error becomes a problem of massive proportions, and everything is in the operator's hands. Another curiosity, the best operators can feel the cable tension just by the sound it makes. When it stretches, others can tell when hydraulic pressure is slightly off just from the vibration in the lever. You don't learn that from a manual. You learn it from years in the cabin, paying attention to things no one else notices. During major lifts, the silence is absolute. No one talks. No one moves. Everyone watches, but only the operator feels what's truly happening. The tension traveling up the control arm, the machine's reaction to gravity, the shift in the center of mass, all of it flows through them. And even knowing that, they can't flinch, because doing it right isn't enough. It has to look easy. It has to look automatic. Even when they're just seconds away from losing control, there have been operations where the operator had to hold a suspended load in the air for nearly an hour, waiting for the rest of the structure to be ready. That entire time, they couldn't leave, couldn't relax, couldn't even take their eyes off the load, because 1 millimeter down or one extra swing and the alignment would fail. The machines are massive, cables over 5 centimeters thick. Arms reaching higher than buildings, but none of it works on its own. None of it replaces the mind of the person inside. Can you imagine working while knowing every move you make is being watched by drones, engineers, security cameras, and a full team ready to intervene if something goes wrong, and still staying calm, precise, in full control? There's a reason why the most experienced operators are treated like legends on certain projects. They don't talk much, but they see what others don't. They feel weight, torque, imbalance, just by hearing the engine. Just by seeing how the machine responds. It's almost a form of synesthesia. They don't just operate the machine, they are the machine. And when it's all over, when the load is in place and everyone claps, few people truly know what it took to make that happen. How many split-second decisions, how many invisible corrections, how much responsibility was carried alone, high above, in a cabin cut off from the world. And the operator has to control everything with calm, precision, and cold blood. No room for error. Could you do it? Machines so massive they make operators look like ants from a distance. The machine hardly looks real. It's like a building on wheels. A structure so tall it blocks out houses, so wide it spans entire roads, and so heavy that the ground itself seems to sink beneath its weight, but as monstrous as it appears on the outside. What truly amazes is what's inside. The cabin. Tiny. Suspended dozens of meters above the ground, and inside, just one person. The operator. They control everything. They decide when to move, when to brake, when to turn. And any mistake could mean catastrophic damage, or worse. Few people understand what it means to operate a machine this size. Reaction time isn't the same. The engine sounds like constant thunder, the floor vibrates, and even with all the advanced onboard tech, the responsibility still rests entirely on the person inside that cabin. Did you know that just to start one of these machines, There's a protocol with over 40 steps. Everything must be checked. Hydraulic pressure, temperature, axle calibration, ballast system. Structural alignment don't miss a single detail, and the ground itself can crack or collapse. From inside the cabin, the operator sees the world from above. But that doesn't mean it's easier. Visibility is limited. The blind spot is bigger than most cars dot, and even so, they have to move this colossus with surgical precision. Some operators spend entire weeks and 12-hour daily shifts inside that space. There's no luxury, no comfort, just noise, pressure, and absolute focus on not making mistakes, because mistakes here are expensive, very expensive. A little known fact, in some operations, operators train on simulators that replicate not just the controls, but the tilt, vibration, and even system failures, all to prepare the mind, because the body can take it, but the mind must be fail-proof. During real work, it's common for other vehicles to get close, support trucks, smaller excavators, ground crews, and when you see the aerial shots, it almost looks fake. People look like dots dot, other machines look like toys. Everything nearby seems insignificant compared to the true giant, and that's exactly why the risk is constant. One bad calculation, one mistim turn, or slightly off angle, and the impact can crush anything in its path dot. It's like moving a wall, but with wheels. There are stories of operators who, even after decades of experience, still get butterflies when maneuvering these machines in tight areas. Dot. It's not fear dot, it's respect. Respect for the size, the power, and the consequences. There have been situations where machines like this were used to push tons of material up steep terrain. No anchors, no ropes, no safety margin. All manual control, all dependent on terrain reading, weight perception, and flawless coordination. That's when a regular operator is separated from a legendary one. Another curiosity, the braking system on these machines can take up to 5 seconds to come to a full stop. Sounds short. At 15 kilometers per hour, this beast travels over 20 meters before stopping, which means the operator must anticipate problems before they appear, react before they see, think before they feel. That's why many say operating one of these isn't like driving. It's like piloting a ship on dry land. Massive, slow, dangerous, and absolutely unforgiving of mistakes. The wheels are so tall, a standing person can't reach the top. The engine is bigger than an entire bedroom, and the steering system requires multiple gears working together, because no human arm could move all that weight alone. During maintenance stops, operators often step out and walk around the machine, and that's when it hits. They really are small, tiny next to all that dot, but even so, they're the ones in control dot no matter how giant the machine is. It doesn't think dot, it doesn't feel dot, it doesn't predict dot, it only reacts. The one who anticipates danger is the operator, the one who senses the terrain, the wind, the torque is them, the one who must keep it all running, even when things start to go wrong, is them. From the outside, it looks like just another industrial operation. From the inside, it's a psychological test day after day with hours of uninterrupted concentration. Knowing the entire team is counting on the person sitting up top. This machine is bigger than a house, heavier than a plane, stronger than any truck but alone, it does nothing, and the operator has to control everything with calm, precision, and cold blood. No room for error. Could you do it? Machines so heavy the ground has to ask for permission to hold them. When this machine goes into operation, there's no room left for mistakes. The terrain doesn't matter. The weather doesn't matter. It will move. It will carry. It will push. And all of that depends on the one sitting high above, alone, commanding dozens of tons with a single touch on the controls. What the public sees is impressive. Giant wheels, hydraulic arms, gears the size of doors, reinforced steel plates, and a structure that looks like a mechanical monster. But what no one sees is what happens inside the cabin. In there, the operator transforms. They're not just moving levers. They're anticipating the weight that's coming. They're hearing sounds no one else would notice. They're sensing vibrations no sensor could ever detect. Many think the hard part is getting the machine to move. It's not. The hard part is keeping it under control when everything around is shifting. The ground cracks, the load shifts, the frame groans, and even then, the operator has to keep going, as if everything were stable. There have been situations where one of these machines had to climb a 20-degree slope with a full load. That takes more than power. It takes balance. It takes absolute control over Weight distribution, speed, and center of gravity. One tiny mistake, and the machine could slide. And if it slides, no one stops it. Another curiosity, experienced operators can tell if the machine is overloaded just by the rhythm of the engine. They don't look at the dashboard. They listen, they feel, they know, because they live with the machine every day, and they learn to read every breath it takes. Some think the operator's job is just sitting, but few could endure what the body goes through in that seat. Hours under tension, back stiff, arms locked, eyes focused. All of the brain runs in constant alert mode. It's like driving a war tank with the precision of a Swiss watch. Ever seen an operation where the machines have to move a load that, if it leans even slightly, will snap in half? That's millimetric synchronization. Each operator has to trust the other, but even more, they have to trust their own intuition, because what's on the screen isn't always what's really happening. In some projects, the pressure is so intense that operators are trained to do controlled breathing exercises. Yes, controlled breathing, because staying calm under real risk of structural collapse isn't natural. It's learned. It's trained, and not everyone can do it. Another lesser-known fact, the operator can't just react, they have to predict. Before the load starts to sway, before the ground gives way, before the alarm sounds. If they wait for the signal, it's already delayed. They have to be 3 steps ahead, always. Some of these machines have tracks over 10 meters long. Every movement takes insane torque, which must be managed gently. That's right, the operator must be gentle with something that could crush a bus. It's brutality with finesse. It's power controlled by instinct. At night, visibility drops, but the work doesn't stop, and that's when the true professionals rise, with headlights, sensors, and what else? Intuition. Because no matter how modern the panel is, the person in the cabin has to see in the dark with their mind. Ever heard of operators who knew a cable was about to snap? Before any visible sign, they heard a slight pop. Felt unusual tension. They acted, stopped everything, prevented disaster. And then went right back to work, as if nothing had happened. Because that's the job, that's the routine. Have you seen a machine cross unstable terrain, where a rock layer hides a pocket of mud? The ground deceives, looks solid, but it's not. And only someone with years in the cabin knows how to read that kind of trap. The operator picks it up from the vibration, the resistance, the way sound travels inside the cabin. Everything signals danger, and they act. These machines are built to conquer the impossible, but that only happens because someone is capable of thinking with a cold mind in the heat of chaos, while everyone else is impressed by the steel and the engines. Those who understand know what truly matters is the person at the controls. When everything's calm, it looks easy, but try operating in the rain, with wind, team pressure, tight deadlines, and a looming mechanical failure. That's when the operator shows who they really are. That's when there's no room for error. That's when only the best keep going. You might see the giant machine moving and think, wow, that's incredible. But behind that movement, there are decisions, invisible calculations. Courage, and above all, someone who cannot make a mistake. And the operator has to control everything with calm, precision, and cold blood. No margin for error. Could you do it? Proton-M rocket and Baikonur machines like this don't just defy gravity. They shape the course of space exploration. In Baikonur, the colossal Proton-M was transported horizontally by a special train under the watchful eyes of Roscosmos engineers. What might seem like a simple relocation is, in fact, a ritual of millimetric precision. This modern version of the legendary Russian rocket family is capable of placing over 20 tons into low Earth orbit and up to 6 tons into geostationary orbit. Every centimeter of movement is coordinated. Every steel joint is inspected. It's not just about sending technology into space. It's about ensuring that every second operates in perfect sync with the limits of physics. The Proton-M is more than a rocket. It is a tool of national power, calculated engineering, and elevated ambition. Machines like this don't just move weight. They carry the pride of meticulous engineering. In Oslo, two Mercedes-Benz Actros trucks led an almost impossible mission, transporting a 240-ton transformer on a 71.5-meter-long hydraulic platform. It wasn't just cargo. It was a colossus of technology crossing streets, curves, and slopes with millimetric precision. Each wheel of the trailer responded independently, adjusting to the terrain as if it were alive. The convoy reached a total weight of 442 tons. It was like watching a city in motion. This wasn't merely transportation. It was an event that demanded nerves of steel, rigorous calculations, and absolute synchronization between man and machine. With every meter conquered, one thing became clear. Here, there is no room for error. When the transformer finally reached its destination, it wasn't just a logistical triumph. It was a public demonstration of how far modern engineering can go when the challenge is big enough. Machines like the Eurolift L100 don't age. They command respect. Built in 1979, this lifting platform is still active as if time had never passed. It features four independent hydraulic arms, each capable of lifting 25 tons, combining for a raw force of 100 tons. But what truly impresses isn't just the weight it can handle, it's the way it moves. Even with 76 tons of mass, the EL100 maneuvers with surprising agility, adjusting its arms with surgical precision to manipulate blocks of material that even modern machines hesitate to face. On major construction sites, it doesn't just speed up the work, it redefines the entire rhythm of the operation. Every lift is done with confidence, as if saying, I've done this 1,000 times, and indeed, it has. More than 40 years later, the Eurolift L100 remains living proof that when engineering gets it right, time becomes just a detail. Moving an 80-meter wind turbine blade isn't just about strength. It's a test of mechanical intelligence in Portugal. This type of transport requires a specialized truck, equipped with a rotating structure capable of adjusting the blade's angle both horizontally and vertically. This allows it to navigate tight turns, steep inclines, and bridges with critical load limits. Every section of the route is studied in advance: ground slope, distance between utility poles, road width, and even with everything calculated, the operator must react in real time to any unexpected situation. A single mistimed rotation, and the blade could touch the ground or collide with nearby structures. The mission demands total synchronization between drivers, engineers, and escort monitors. It's the kind of transport where millimeters matter, and when the blade finally reaches its destination, few can imagine what it took for 80 meters of aerodynamic engineering to cross an entire country without missing a single turn. Ordinary machines stop at water, but the amphibious excavator in the Chornaya River calls it home, operating along the swampy banks of Surgut, Russia. This machine floats as if it were part of the river itself, equipped with a track system adapted for aquatic and semi-floating environments. It moves effortlessly even in water depths exceeding 1.5 meters. Its adjustable bucket, ranging from 0.5 to 1.2 cubic meters, allows it to dig with precision where other machines would sink with no chance of recovery. The engine, delivering between 150 and 200 horsepower, is powered by a sealed hydraulic system built to withstand extreme moisture and the pressure of unstable terrain. Inside the cab, the operator sits elevated, shielded from flooding, and with full visibility of the hostile surroundings. This machine doesn't just dig, it dominates the swamp, a fusion of engineering and nature that redefines what's possible in places no one else dares to enter. Machines also hold memories. The last Gans crane at the port of Nizhny Novgorod was more than just a metal structure, it was a landmark. From afar, it seemed motionless, but for decades it moved loads that helped build the history of that Russian city. Built in an era when every bolt was designed to last, it withstood time, wars, and shifts in global trade. But now, permanently shut down, it has fallen silent. Its deactivation was more than a technical act. It marked the end of a symbol. Architects, journalists, and residents protested, not out of empty nostalgia, but because they knew the Gans was more than steel. It was the arm that raised the port, the constant shadow on working days, the metallic sound that accompanied generations. When removed, it took with it a part of the region's industrial soul. For many, it was not just a crane, it was a witness, and now its place is memory. Machines that break all the rules, gigantic equipment with unimaginable proportions. capable of performing feats that defy logic and surpass the limits of what we believe to be possible. But no matter the size, the power, or the complexity, what truly drives all of it is the operator. He's in there, alone in the cab, with dozens, sometimes hundreds, of tons beneath him, controlling every movement with a precision few can understand. It's not just strength. It's not just technology. It's a bond between man and machine that only forms through experience, focus, and ice-cold nerves. Few people realize the weight the operator carries. While the machine lifts structures taller than buildings or hauls loads heavier than a convoy of cars, he has to think about everything. The ground stability, the exact weight of the cargo, the perfect speed for each movement, all at once, all under pressure. Here's a little known fact: even before powering up these giants, the operator goes through a series of checks that can take minutes or even hours. He has to make sure every hydraulic system, every cable, every single component is working flawlessly. One mistake at this stage and the outcome can be catastrophic. Once the machine is moving, the operator's focus must be absolute. He reads sounds, feels vibrations, and senses minute changes that no sensor could ever detect. Often, he'll catch a failure before it even shows up on the panel. That sixth sense only develops after years in the cab, thousands of hours of pure, undivided attention. Another incredible detail: during certain training sessions, operators are put through extreme simulations where false alarms go off and unexpected failures occur, all to test their self-control. Staying calm in the middle of chaos is what separates success from disaster. The operator must be ready to act without hesitation, even when the unexpected comes knocking. The required precision is so high that in some maneuvers, the machine must operate within a margin of just a few centimeters, even while carrying several tons. Imagine controlling mechanical arms that tower above buildings, while the load must be placed with millimeter accuracy. It's a delicate dance, guided by steady hands and watchful eyes. These mega machines face terrain that seems impossible. They cross unstable ground, climb steep ramps, and endure powerful winds. All the while, the operator is calculating, adjusting, and maintaining full control. There is no room for distractions. Did you know that some of these machines have systems that take hours to fully calibrate, and that the operator must master every one of those systems? Understanding each alert, each signal, even the ones that barely register. More than that, he must anticipate failures and act before they happen. Inside the cab, during operations, silence reigns. The operator needs maximum concentration, as if in a silent battle against time and gravity. Every command, every touch matters, because a single wrong move could cost dearly, very dearly. It doesn't matter if the machine is the most advanced in the world or the oldest in the fleet. The human factor is still the most critical element. It may have sensors, cameras, and automated systems, but only the operator feels the terrain, senses resistance, understands how the machine is responding. In extreme conditions, dust storms, scorching heat, or freezing cold, the challenge only intensifies. Visibility drops, reflexes are tested, and the operator must go beyond physical limits. He needs nerves of steel and a sharp mind to stay in complete control. When the job is done, the machine powers down. The world sees nothing but a motionless giant. But to the operator, that machine is an extension of his body, a living tool he has mastered. Every successful operation is the result of years of dedication, training, and responsibility, and the operator, he has to manage it all with calm, precision, and cold blood. No room for error. Could you do it? In this video, you're about to discover the most insane machines on the planet and the real risks operators face. With every single move, ready to feel the pressure. Let's get into it. Machines like this don't go unnoticed. The Komatsu PC-800 isn't just an excavator. It's a 768-ton monster standing 10 meters tall. To get a sense of its size, its bucket alone lifts 100 tons of rock at a time, like it's nothing. But the most surprising part happens before the engine even starts. There isn't a single road in the world that can handle its weight. That's why it has to be completely disassembled, transported piece by piece like a giant puzzle, and then reassembled inside the mine. All of that just to start working. And once it starts, nothing stands in its way. Now imagine the challenge faced by those who put this thing together in the middle of nowhere. It sounds impossible, but it actually happened. A 96-meter long, 800-ton petrochemical separator was transported by a convoy of trucks in Edmonton, Canada. The platforms, each with 26 axles, moved this colossal structure just 179 meters. And even then, the operation took 3 full days. Every turn was a calculation. Every meter demanded precision. All of it so the equipment could do one single job: separate propylene from propane inside a petrochemical complex. Now, I want to know, could you plan a maneuver like this? Drop a comment. What impressed you most about this extreme transport? A heavy truck speeds toward the East Alligator River, deep in the Northern Territory of Australia. There's no bridge, no room for mistakes. The river is full and crawling with crocodiles. This crossing happens during the wet season, when the swollen waters become the perfect hunting ground for predators waiting for a single slip. The only chance to make it across safely: speed, precision, and nerves of steel. In this remote region, creativity and courage take the place of infrastructure. Now imagine this. Would you have what it takes to face a river like that? Knowing there are eyes lurking just beneath the surface? Drop a comment. Would you risk the drive, or let someone else go first? In the mountainous regions of India, where modern engineering has yet to make its mark, necessity built its own bridges, literally, with no reliable overpasses. Heavy trucks brave makeshift rope-hand plank crossings, hauling tons across suspended pathways that sway, creak, and threaten to give way at any moment. But they go anyway. For the people who live there, this isn't bravery, it's just life. One wrong move, and everything disappears into the abyss below. Now tell me, would you have the guts to drive a loaded truck across a rope bridge? Drop a comment. What would you do in a situation like this? The Blue Marlin is no ordinary ship. It's a floating giant, 217 meters long, built to carry what no one else can: entire oil platforms, warships, and even massive radar systems. Its capacity is staggering minus 56,000 tons into thousand. It was called on for a critical mission, evacuating the damaged destroyer USS Cole from the Middle East. In another operation, it delivered a massive sea-based radar to Alaska, as if it were just another shipment. Would you have the courage to command a transport like this, where everything can go wrong and nothing can be left to chance? Tell us below, what kind of cargo would you dare to carry aboard the Blue Marlin? Machines you won't believe actually exist. Machines that defy everything engineering has taught us so far. Equipment so absurd, so massive, so far beyond standard, they seem straight out of a science fiction movie. They weren't built to fit into the world. They were built to transform it. But they don't move on their own. Every bolt, every hydraulic arm, every colossal traction system depends on the human brain inside the cab. The operator, he's not just a driver. He's the balance between chaos and control. He commands tons with the lightness of a gesture. While the world sees a giant machine moving, he feels every reaction as if it were part of his own body. And that takes more than strength. It takes a cold mind, coordination, and discipline. Before even starting these machines that seem impossible, the operator performs a ritual of safety, inspections, tests, evaluations, all done with absolute precision. There's no room for haste, because in this world, mistakes don't come with a warning. They arrive silently, and when you notice them, it's already delayed. Few realize that machines of this scale need minutes, sometimes hours, just to start up. That's right. There are pressure systems, auxiliary engines, and circuits that must reach ideal temperatures. Meanwhile, the operator reviews every detail, visualizes the steps ahead, and prepares his body for a long, demanding journey. When the machine finally moves, the world around it changes. People look like ants, regular trucks look like toys, and the operator, in command of the area's most powerful force, must act with the calm of a surgeon and the steadiness of an Olympic athlete. Every movement has a purpose. Nothing is done on impulse. When the mechanical arm turns, it's lifting tons over unstable ground on inclines, with error margins under 5 centimeters, and that movement isn't dictated by the machine. It's dictated by the operator. A little known fact, in some training centers, operators undergo simulations of sudden failure. Everything appears normal, until, without warning, the systems simulate defects, alarms blare, controls freeze, lights flash. It's all part of a test. The goal, to measure composure. to see if the operator has nerves of steel to stay calm and keep going. And the most impressive part, many of them do dot years inside the cab, focus silence. Long shifts where a single mistake could erase weeks of work. They don't panic dot, they don't flinch. They take a deep breath and move forward. Sometimes the operator has to balance the machine on partially unstable terrain. Imagine keeping a multi-ton colossus suspended while performing circular, lateral, and vertical movements with pinpoint precision. Now imagine doing it in high winds, heavy dust, deafening noise, and poor visibility. That's not theory, that's routine. Other jaw-dropping facts. Some machines have mechanical arms reaching over 100 meters. Others carry more weight than a commercial airplane in flight. And there are operators who can detect mechanical issues just by hearing the engine change tone. By fractions of a pitch dot, no sensors, no alarms, just experience dot, and that experience doesn't come easy. It takes years before someone is cleared to operate these colossal machines. First come the simulators, then smaller equipment, followed by supervised real-world tests. Only after sweat, study, and discipline does an operator earn the right to sit alone in the cab of a giant. Machines like these also demand physical conditioning. Even while seated, operators endure constant vibration, intense noise, extreme temperatures, and muscular tension for hours. Some wear lumbar belts, heavy-duty hearing protection, and even biometric sensors to monitor heart rate during critical maneuvers. During the most dangerous tasks, the operator shuts out all distractions. No radio, no chatter, no external noise. There's a moment when only three things remain: the sound of the machine, the weight of responsibility, and total focus. Nothing else matters. And if one of these machines fails mid-operation, it's not just financial loss. It could be a tragedy. That's why operators are trained not just to drive, but to react within seconds to anything unusual. They must know what to shut off, how to evacuate, how to reverse damage, and they must do it with the machine still in motion. In night operations, the challenge increases. Visibility drops, fatigue sets in, sensors become less reliable, and still, the machine keeps going because the operator keeps going. He doesn't just control metal, oil, and gears. He controls consequences. And that's why, even in front of the world's largest machine, it's the human being who determines its destiny. When the work ends and the engine falls silent, the operator steps down from the cab without a word. To an outsider, it's just another worker heading home. But for those who understand, that person is a master. Someone who tamed the unpredictable, danced with tons, and won, not by luck, but by control. And the operator, he has to manage it all with calm, precision, and cold blood. No room for error. Could you do it? In this video, you're about to discover the most insane machines on the planet and the real risks operators face. With every single move, ready to feel the pressure, let's get into it. After traveling nearly 200 million kilometers through space, the Space Shuttle Endeavour faced one of its toughest challenges right here on Earth. To reach its final home, the California Science Center, the shuttle had to be moved 19 kilometers through the streets of Los Angeles, squeezing between poles, trees, and traffic signs. The speed, just 3 kilometers per hour, using a self-propelled platform controlled with millimetric precision, a slow, tense, and deeply symbolic journey from outer space to the heart of the city. So, what did you think of this final mission? Comment below. Do you think you could drive a space shuttle through city traffic? The U-17 submarine, 50 meters long and weighing 500 tons, once sailed silently through the depths of the sea, but its greatest challenge came on dry land. To reach the Sinsheim Museum of Technology in Germany, it had to cross rivers on a floating pontoon and then be hoisted onto a road transport system. The problem? Narrow streets and shallow waterways turned every single meter into a test of patience, engineering, and precision. An urban submarine isn't something you expect to see, but it happened. Now imagine yourself on that mission. How would you maneuver something that massive through tight city streets? Drop a comment. Would you take on a challenge like this? A stainless steel ring measuring 15.6 meters in diameter and weighing 150 tons. This isn't just any piece, it's the largest one-piece stainless steel structure in the world. Built for a nuclear power plant in China, And the challenge? Transporting it through city streets. A convoy with 106 wheels was required, keeping the ring over 3 meters above ground, wide enough to block for entire lanes of traffic. The operation demanded precise calculations, absolute control, and surgical patience. Now tell me, do you think you could lead a mission like this? Drop a comment. What would be your biggest fear in an operation at this level? Imagine driving a fully loaded truck across a wooden bridge from the 1980s. No guardrails. Slippery, unstable, over the icy Vitim River in Siberia. This crossing is real, and it's still in use today. The structure looks like it could collapse at any moment, but for many local drivers, it's the only way through. The fear is constant. One wrong move, and the truck plunges straight into freezing water. That's why many won't even attempt the crossing without an experienced guide walking ahead, directing them meter by meter. Now let me ask you, would you have the guts to drive a truck across that bridge? Drop a comment. What would you do in this extreme situation? Transporting a wind turbine sounds simple until you see the size of the parts. The blades can stretch over 90 meters, and once assembled, the towers reach up to 140 meters tall. Each turbine requires a convoy planned down to the centimeter, and the cost of transport can range from $30,000 to $100,000. Tight turns? Trees in the way. Nothing can be left to chance. The driver needs nerves of steel and surgical precision in every maneuver. So tell me, would you take on this challenge? Drop a comment. What do you think is the hardest part? The weight, the size, or the road itself? Machines bigger than houses. That's right. You didn't misread it. There are machines out there that can't fit in garages or even in standard industrial warehouses. Machines so massive that next to them, a regular truck looks like a toy, and the operator, perched high above in the cab, looks like a tiny dot, an insect. This is the scale where the true giants of mining operate. Colossuses that weigh hundreds of tons, with wheels taller than an adult human and engines that could make a ship seem quiet, but as absurd as all of this sounds. These machines don't move on their own. They breathe, rotate, and roar only when someone, high up in the cab, decides the next move. That someone is the operator. From up there, the view is different. There are no ordinary rearview mirrors. There are cameras, sensors, alarms, control panels that resemble the cockpit of an airplane. And even with all that technology, what truly matters is instinct, sensitivity, the precise reading of every passing second. The one behind the controls doesn't just have a task. They have a mission to move. With extreme precision, more weight than many bridges around the world are allowed to support, and more than brute strength. They need a cold mind because one mistake can cost millions or lives. Here's a fact you know. Some operators describe the sound of these machines as a symphony. The engines growl, the hiss of the hydraulic system, the creaks of the structure, adjusting to the terrain. For those who know, each sound is a signal, a conversation. It's as if the machine were saying what it's about to do. But what about the environment? Imagine operating a machine of this size under intense heat, with dust covering everything, across unstable rock and narrow paths never designed for such a beast. Now add fog, rain, CROSSWINDS. It's a challenge every second to reach the cab. The operator walked a long road. They started with smaller machines, then came the simulators, then supervised real-world testing. And only after years of experience and rigorous evaluation is someone cleared to climb into the cab of a giant. No rushing, no improvisation. The controls are far from simple. Hundreds of buttons, levers, pedals, sensors. Yet everything must be done naturally, as if the machine were an extension of the body. And that takes constant training. In many cases, the operator spends up to 12 hours per shift inside isolated focused shore. The seat is ergonomic, but fatigue sets in, mental tension builds, and still, there can be no distraction, because these machines do not forgive. Another surprising fact, some of these massive machines take up to 20 minutes just to reverse safely. Yes, 20 minutes, because visibility is limited, the response time is high, and even a small obstacle can become a colossal problem. Even with technology assisting, the decision always rests with the operator, and one wrong choice could be the beginning of disaster. Here's what's truly incredible. Many of these operators can perform millimeter-precise maneuvers, with tires the size of shipping containers. with machines that weigh more than a cargo plane, with the cab swaying due to uneven terrain. That's not luck, Dot. It's not just talent, Dot. It's discipline, Dot. It's repetition, Dot. It's refined technique. Turned into instinct, Dot. Inside the cab, silence helps, but it also weighs heavy for hours. The operator hears only the voice of the machine, and that can be more draining than you think. That's why mental strength is just as vital as physical endurance. Many develop personal strategies. Some count their movements aloud. Others sync their breathing with the engine rhythm. Some relax their left hand while operating with the right, just to manage muscle tension. And the most insane part, some operators can sense a mechanical problem before the sensors detect it, just by feeling a vibration underfoot, Dot, or a tenth of a second delay in the brakes, or a barely audible change in engine pitch. That level of connection is what defines an elite, Dot. Now imagine this professional operating under time pressure, a tight schedule, dozens of other vehicles moving around, radios going off, and still, they must act as if the world is standing still, Dot. No hesitation. These machines can move mountains, literally, but they can also cause catastrophe with a single, miscalculated turn. There are documented cases where one of these machines passed just centimeters above underground gas pipelines, Dot. If the operator had misjudged the route by 15 centimeters, the result would have been catastrophic. That's why the operator doesn't just carry the weight of the machine. They carry the weight of responsibility, Dot. From the outside, you see a giant moving slowly, but from inside, the operator knows every meter is a victory, every turn is a test, every load lifted is another challenge overcome. And when the day ends, the giant rests, the engine falls silent, the lights go out, and the operator climbs down with the same quiet focus they climbed up with, Dot. No applause, Dot. No crowd. Just the certainty that, for one more shift, they controlled something that few on Earth even understand, and even fewer can truly master. And the operator has to control it all with calm, precision, and ice cold blood, Dot. No room for error. Could you do it? In this video, you're about to discover the most insane machines on the planet and the real risks operators face. With every single move, ready to feel the pressure. Let's get into it. Moving a 400-ton, century-old house might sound insane, but that's exactly what happened with the Butte Mansion. Built in 1883 in Tipton, Iowa, the entire structure was carefully placed on a 140-wheel platform attached to a self-propelled machine. It traveled 8 kilometers at just 3 kilometers per hour, requiring millimetric coordination to avoid cracks or structural collapse. The destination? A winery, where the mansion became the centerpiece of a brand new landscape. Now tell me, would you have the courage to lead that transport? Drop a comment. What impressed you most? The weight, the distance, or the final destination? A 447-ton cylinder, 60 meters long and filled with liquefied gas. That was the challenge faced in Kuwait, transporting one of the largest industrial tanks ever built in the region. The hauler, a 600-horsepower Mercedes-Benz Titan, hitched to a custom-built platform made specifically for this mission. Every step had to be executed with absolute precision, because one wrong move could lead to a catastrophic disaster. Brute force alone wasn't enough. This job demanded calculation, control, and ice-cold nerves. Now tell me, would you have the courage to haul a load like that? Drop a comment. What blew your mind the most? The size, the weight, or the cargo itself? After completing its mission in space, the Falcon 9 rocket by SpaceX returns to Earth, but the adventure doesn't end there. Transporting this 70-meter-tall metal tower back to the hangar requires a near-secret operation with top-tier logistics. Imagine moving a giant soot-covered cylinder along roads or on specialized platforms, all under watchful eyes with zero room for error. Every detail is calculated down to the millimeter, and the wildest part, most of the journey is done with the rocket standing upright. Now, I want to know, would you take on this mission? Drop a comment. What impresses you most? The size of the Falcon 9, the delicacy of the transport, or the precision required? In Palestine, Texas, a truck hauling an extra-long container faced one of the toughest enemies of heavy cargo, a tight urban intersection. The combination of length and rigidity brought traffic to a standstill, and even an ordinary driver, seeing the challenge ahead, chose to reroute and give up. But the trailer operator had to rely on every last centimeter of skill to pivot, realign, and inch forward, millimeter by millimeter. It was raw force versus geometry, and all of it under pressure. Now tell me, could you stay calm with dozens of meters of container trapped in a tight corner? Drop a comment. What would you do in a situation like that? Machines that push the limits of human capability from a distance. They seem slow, up close. You realize nothing about them is truly slow. It's only their size that tricks the eye. When this machine moves, it carries with it tons of material, hundreds of hydraulic connections, and a complex system that must work in perfect sync. A delay of just seconds can mean the difference between success and disaster. But the heart of it all isn't the steel. It isn't the engine. It isn't the gears. It's the operator, from high above, seated in a cab that feels more like a control tower. They don't just see a job, they see a giant puzzle, where every piece is alive and heavy. Every command is transmitted through cables, valves, and actuators, turning small movements of hands and feet into forces capable of shifting mountains. Fun fact, some veteran operators claim that, over time, they start to feel the machine as if it were an extension of their own body. The sound of the engine becomes its pulse. The floor's vibration feels like it's breathing. Any change, no matter how small, is sensed before it even shows up on the dashboard. It takes more than strength to operate something like this. It takes situational awareness, anticipation, and instinct. A wrong move can overload critical components. An ill-timed acceleration can throw the load off balance. There's no room for trial and error. No space for poorly calculated improvisation. Training is rigorous, but it doesn't teach everything. What separates an average operator from a legendary one is experience in extreme situations, like when the ground suddenly gives way beneath the machine, and the only thing preventing a rollover is a precise repositioning maneuver done in seconds, without hesitation. There have been times when operations had to continue under heavy rain, deep mud, and almost zero visibility. In those moments, sensors help, but they don't save you. It's the touch, the patience, and the ability to read micro details in the machine's behavior that make the difference. Inside the cab, it feels like total isolation. Outside noise is muffled, but the internal sounds are constant. Hydraulic motors, fans, subtle alarms, and in the middle of all that, the operator must keep absolute focus. There's no pause to regain concentration. Every minute is a test of attention. And if the system fails, many times, the operator has to take full manual control. Disabling automated assists and relying solely on coordination, that means controlling weight, tilt, and raw power without electronic corrections. This is the moment you find out who truly knows how to operate. A little known fact, in machines of this size, inertia is so great that even if you release all controls, the load keeps moving. It's like trying to stop a wave with your hands. The operator has to anticipate that before acting, calculating each move the way a chess player thinks several moves ahead. And all this happens while maintaining communication with ground teams, who don't always have a complete view of the situation. A single misunderstood signal can lead to collisions, damage, or worse. That's why coordination isn't just technical. It's almost its own language between the operator and the crew below. Another detail, if you notice, working continuously for hours demands extreme physical and mental endurance. The whole body is under tension. Hands press controls with millimeter precision. Legs adjust pedals that command tons of weight. The spine must withstand constant vibration. It's not just sitting and pushing buttons. It's managing force, weight, and risk at all times. Some operators describe it as driving an earthquake, because even in a protected cab, every shift in the ground is felt. Every change in load creates a new balance. Every second demands fine adjustments, and the machine won't wait. The operation clock never stops. In extreme conditions, like very low temperatures or intense heat, the difficulty increases even more. Fluids react differently, hydraulic pressure changes, and sensors can give inaccurate readings. It's up to the operator to determine what's a real failure and what's just a weather effect. A wrong call here can mean anything from material loss to a life-threatening situation. The truth is, these machines, no matter how big or impressive, are only truly safe and efficient when controlled by someone who understands not just the technical side, but the personality of the machine. Yes, personality, because each unit, even of the same model, has its own quirks. A slight response delay, a different noise, A specific vibration, all of it must be noticed and understood. That's why the best operators are those who connect with the machine, who know, without looking, when to accelerate, when to hold, when to change strategy. They don't wait for the machine to tell them what's wrong. They already know that, and make no mistake, even with all the onboard technology, danger is always present. A single moment of distraction can turn tons of steel into an uncontrollable problem. When the operation ends, the machine stays there, still and silent, but the operator carries in their body the weight of the tension, the exhaustion of keeping everything under control for hours. They know that tomorrow, it will all happen again, and that every day brings new surprises. And the operator, they have to control everything with calm, precision, and cold blood. No room for error. Could you do it?
In the age of modern agriculture, a harvest is far more than the simple act of gathering crops. Each season has become living proof of how technology allows humanity to bring in record-breaking yields, more than 2.5 billion tons of produce worldwide in astonishingly short time frames. Farmers today rely on highly advanced machines to beat the clock and take agriculture to heights once unimaginable. Apple harvesting. Our journey begins in Washington State, recognized as the apple capital of the United States. Here, enormous tree-shaking machines dominate the orchards. Weighing nearly 10 tons, these mechanical giants are designed exclusively for harvesting fruit. Two main models are most common. One that clamps onto the trunk with hydraulic arms and shakes until the apples rain down, and another that incorporates a catching system to preserve the fruit. When apples are shaken loose and dropped to the ground, special sweepers come into play. They push the fruit neatly into rows where conveyors with soft rubber fingers gently lift each apple from the soil. The fruit then travels along the machine's belts, passing through air blowers that clear away leaves and debris before being deposited into wooden crates or large bins ready for transport. This system can collect 10 to 15 tons of apples a day, though the fruit often suffers bruising, making it ideal for juice production rather than premium markets. To meet the demand for fresh, export-quality apples, engineers developed more refined harvesters. These machines feature integrated catching frames that prevent apples from hitting the ground. Instead, fruit falls safely into cushioned surfaces before being funneled directly into containers, dramatically reducing damage. Given that apple trees usually take 4 to 5 years before producing their first crop, this advancement highlights how much technology shapes both efficiency and market value. Another innovation, though less widespread, is the over-the-row harvester. Its rotating brushes gently sweep the treetops, guiding apples onto collection trays that transfer them to a conveyor and finally into rear storage bins. Unlike traditional shakers, this system can continuously harvest as the machine drives between rows. Yet the most revolutionary step comes from robotics. Gone are the days when crews climbed ladders for hours to pick fruit by hand. Equipped with AI-powered cameras, robotic arms can identify ripe apples, extend with precision, and harvest thousands in a single day. This shift doesn't just accelerate the process, it redefines the economic potential of an entire season, ensuring that technology is now as essential to the orchard as soil and sun. Carrot harvesting typically peaks from September through November, when the roots are crisp and their skins shine with freshness. In major growing regions such as the Netherlands and Germany, the process is no longer dependent on manual labor but on advanced harvesting machines. One example is the powerful Evo 280, designed to do much more than pull carrots from the soil. These harvesters shake off excess dirt, trim the leafy tops, and even perform initial sorting right in the field. What once required hundreds of workers can now be achieved by a single machine running continuously day and night. From above, endless streams of bright orange roots move smoothly along conveyor belts, creating a striking image of agriculture on an industrial scale. Thanks to this technology, Europe delivers millions of tons of carrots each year, ensuring a steady supply both for fresh consumption and for processing industries. Deep plows represent one of the most powerful tools in modern farming, cutting into layers of earth that human hands could never reach. Equipped with massive blades capable of penetrating 60 to 70 centimeters below the surface, these machines do more than simply turn the soil. They shatter compacted layers hidden beneath the topsoil, barriers that often restrict root development and limit crop potential. After each pass, the field is left with long ridges of loosened, aerated soil that can absorb rainfall far more efficiently. This not only promotes healthier plant growth but also reduces the risk of flooding, a crucial benefit in large farming regions across Europe and the United States. Deep plowing is typically carried out before sowing cereals or oilseeds, preparing hundreds of hectares at once for the next growing season. The sheer force of such equipment is so great that, if one were left in a backyard, digging a foundation would hardly be necessary. The plow could do the job with ease. In contrast, shallow plows are the true workhorses of everyday agriculture. Far more common than deep plows, these machines operate at depths of just 15 to 25 centimeters, focusing on the upper layers of the soil where seeds will soon be planted. As their blades move through the field, they not only loosen the soil but also mix in leftover plant material, fallen leaves, and other organic matter. This natural recycling process enriches the ground, creating a fertile layer of humus that supports vigorous crop growth. At the same time, shallow plowing helps suppress weeds and eliminates pests lingering from previous harvests, providing farmers with a cleaner start to the season. Because of its ability to create a fine seedbed, the shallow plow has become indispensable on farms worldwide. Whether preparing fields for rice, corn, or vegetables, this machine ensures that the land is ready to support strong and healthy crops. Together, deep and shallow plows demonstrate how technology continues to transform agriculture, turning raw soil into fertile ground for the world's food supply. Agriculture has always been about the delicate balance between human effort and the power of the land. For centuries, harvesting crops or preparing soil depended almost entirely on manual labor, with farmers relying on tools no more advanced than a shovel, a sickle, or a wooden plow. Today, however, the face of farming has changed completely. Massive machines, powered by hydraulic systems, artificial intelligence, and sophisticated engineering, have turned what was once backbreaking labor into a precise and highly efficient process. From fruit orchards to carrot fields, from deep plows carving through the earth to shallow plows preparing seedbeds, modern agriculture is a story of machines that shape the very foundation of global food production. Take apple harvesting, for example. In Washington state, where orchards stretch as far as the eye can see, enormous tree shakers weighing nearly 10 tons dominate the landscape. These machines grip trunks with hydraulic arms, vibrating the trees until apples cascade like rain. Sweepers quickly gather the fallen fruit into neat rows, while conveyors with soft rubber fingers lift each apple gently onto belts. Air jets remove leaves and debris, and the apples are deposited into bins ready for storage. Such systems can collect up to 15 tons a day, though the bruised fruit often goes straight to juice processing plants. To meet premium export standards, improved shakers with catching frames were developed, allowing apples to land softly before being funneled into crates. Even more groundbreaking are robotic harvesters equipped with AI-powered cameras, capable of spotting ripe fruit and plucking it delicately with mechanical arms. In these orchards, technology not only accelerates the harvest but also determines the economic value of an entire season. Shift now to the carrot fields of Europe, especially in the Netherlands and Germany, where the harvest season peaks between September and November. Here, colossal machines like the Evo 280 handle a process that once required armies of workers. These harvesters do more than pull carrots from the ground. They shake away clumps of soil, trim the leafy tops, and even carry out preliminary sorting, all directly in the field. Operating day and night, they send endless streams of bright orange roots flowing along conveyor belts, a river of color captured against the dark soil. What would once have taken weeks of human effort is now accomplished in a matter of days, with far greater cleanliness and efficiency. Thanks to such machines, Europe alone delivers millions of tons of carrots each year, feeding both fresh produce markets and large-scale food processing industries. 1057 Extreme Machines that will change your mind. Collision. This giant machine is bigger than a house. Machines. They were never meant to feel alive. But when the engine ignites and the ground starts to tremble, something ancient stirs inside them, and inside the one who commands them. This is the story of one such operator, and the machine that defied everything he thought he knew about power, fear, and control. The Awakening. The morning began like any other. Gray sky, mist low on the ground, the faint hum of engines in the distance. The operator approached the giant that waited for him. It stood silent, unmoving, but not dead. Even at rest, it carried an aura that demanded respect. One wrong move, one hesitation, and this machine could crush steel like paper. When he climbed into the cabin, he could feel the static in the air. The panels glowed faintly, dozens of lights pulsing like a living heartbeat. The operator paused for a moment, breathing slowly, remembering what his mentor had told him years ago. You don't control machines like these. You negotiate with them. The ignition key turned. A low growl rolled through the air, deep and powerful. The floor vibrated. Every bolt, every pipe, every piston began to wake from its slumber. He gripped the controls, and for a second, the whole world seemed to wait. Then the giant moved. The first command. Every lever he touched responded with precision, but also with weight. The kind of weight that comes from physics itself. Tons of steel, obeying the faintest movement of his fingers. To the spectators below, the machine was simply working. But to the operator, it felt like balancing chaos. Each step of the operation demanded absolute focus. There was no music, no chatter, only the steady rhythm of metal against metal. When he pulled the main lever forward, hydraulic lines screamed, pressure gauges climbed, and the giant surged ahead. From above, the world looked fragile. Trucks, tools, even men seemed like insects crawling through dust. He had to guide the machine through terrain that shifted like waves, uneven ground, mud, rock. The wrong pressure on a single lever could make the giant sink or tip. Scientists once measured the stress levels of heavy machine operators under full load. They found that heart rates often reached levels comparable to fighter pilots during combat. But the operator didn't think about that. He couldn't afford to. His job wasn't to fight the machine, it was to become part of it. The moment of pressure. Hours passed. The worksite had transformed. Tons of earth moved, mountains reshaped, structures raised from the ground. The giant never slowed. Neither did he. His hands ached from the constant grip, his mind sharp but weary. Then it happened. A deep vibration beneath the surface. The ground shifted. The operator looked at his monitors. One of the stabilizers was sinking. If it collapsed, the entire machine could topple. He froze for half a second. Then instinct took over. Levers forward. Reverse hydraulic pressure. Manual override on the right stabilizer. The cabin shook violently. Warning alarms pierced the air. The screen flashed red. Impact imminent. He leaned with the motion, fighting gravity. The machine tilted, screamed, and then, silence. Dust settled. The monitors returned to green. He had done it. By less than a second, he had prevented a full collapse. But the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, the kind that makes you realize how thin the line between control and destruction truly is. The weight of steel. Later, as the machine rested, the operator stepped outside. The air smelled of oil and earth. He looked up at the massive frame, taller than a house, wider than a building. And for the first time that day, he let himself breathe. Machines like this didn't care about fatigue. They didn't understand fear. But they needed the human element, that pulse of decision-making, the split-second choice that no computer could replicate. He placed his hand on the metal surface, still warm from the hours of movement. It vibrated faintly, like it was alive. Somewhere deep inside, he wondered, were humans building machines, or were machines slowly shaping humans into something else? Curiosity and consequence. Over the years, he had seen things go wrong. Cables snapping like whips, gears locking mid-operation, hydraulics bursting under pressure. He had seen machines collapse with the same violence as explosions. He had seen operators freeze at the worst possible time, and others who reacted so fast they became legends on site. Psychologists once studied what happens to operators during those critical moments. The human brain, when pushed to the edge, experiences something called temporal distortion. Time seems to slow down, every sound, every vibration, every flicker of light amplified. To outsiders, it looks like instinct. To operators, it feels like eternity. The operator knew that feeling too well. It was both curse and gift, the ability to stay calm when everything around you was falling apart. The difference between survival and disaster was measured not in strength, but in stillness. The challenge. As dusk fell, lights flickered across the site. The giant stood motionless again, covered in dust, its frame glowing faintly under the floodlights. The operator watched as younger crew members walked by, some pointing, some whispering. To them, this was just another machine. To him, it was something more, a test of will, a mirror of human limitation. He remembered a statistic once mentioned in training. For every 10,000 machine operations, one error occurs that could be fatal. The question isn't if it happens, it's when. That's why operators like him live differently. They move slower, think deeper, listen harder. They learn to hear the faint hum before the failure, the subtle shift in tone before the system overloads. Because once the machine begins to fall, there's no stopping it. The question. Night deepened. The hum of distant engines faded into silence. The operator climbed down one last time, boots crunching on gravel. Behind him, the giant loomed, a monument to human ambition, danger, and mastery. Machines this size don't forgive mistakes. They don't hesitate. They don't second-guess. But the humans behind them. They carry every moment, every close call, every noise that didn't sound right, every decision that almost cost them everything. He looked back once more, and a thought crossed his mind, a thought that every operator eventually faces. If machines are getting stronger, faster, and smarter, will there still be a place for the human touch? The answer wasn't clear. Not yet. But tomorrow, he knew, the engine would roar again. The lights would flash. The levers would respond. And once more, man and machine would test each other's limits, one heartbeat at a time.